Good afternoon, class. My name is John Rivera, and I'm just going to go ahead and walk you guys through Chapter 7, or my evaluation of Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is mainly concerned with planning and goal setting, and so with that, we're going to go ahead and go right into it. The first slide on the PowerPoint is just a title slide. Okay, so slide 2, chapter aim and the response goals. So what are we trying to learn from this chapter? And what are the goals? So basically, we want to be able to define the goals and the plans and explain the relationship between the two. We want to be able to explain the concept of a mission statement and how that plays into the company and how that influences goal setting and planning. We want to be able to discuss the limitations and benefits of planning because although we understand it's effective and useful, it cannot do everything on its own. We're also going to talk about defining characteristics of effective goals, so setting goals that are feasible to the company. We're going to outline the steps in management by objectives process, which is a very important process, but we'll go over that later in the PowerPoint. And then we're also going to describe scenario building, contingency planning, crisis planning, and we're going to explain the importance of each, just so you guys kind of understand the differences. So with that, we're going to go to the next slide. So to explain what a mission statement is, or an organizational mission, the mission is the basis for all development of goals and plans, and can be utilized to enhance motivation and performance. So in my case, I work for the hospital. Florida Hospital's mission statement is to heal through healing through the ministry of Christ. So everything we do is goaled through that mission statement, whether it be financial, whether it be clinical. That's kind of like the goals and values of the company. The mission statement is a broadly stated definition of purpose that distinguishes the organizations from others that are similar. So with the Florida Hospital example, you would know that we are Florida Hospital given by our mission statement, because other hospitals would have a different mission statement, basically. I know ours is probably a little bit more religious than most other hospitals. So normally that's a pretty good indicator of, if you're comparing different hospitals in our region. Some mission statements also describe company characteristics such as desired markets, customers, product quality, locations of facilities, and attitude towards the employees. So I know Publix is another really good one. If you ever listen to the Publix slogans, where shopping is a pleasure, and they kind of push things to kind of get those customers involved as well. So going into the next slide, what is a goal and what is a plan? So to define both, a goal is a desired future circumstance or condition that the organization attempts to realize. So basically, goals define and state the purpose. So I can say by myself, if I wanted to learn how to ride my bike, that would be a goal. Now, to achieve that goal, I would need a plan. So a plan is a blueprint for goal achievements and specifies the necessary resource allocations, the schedules, and the tasks. So in order for me to ride a bike, I would need a plan. So whether that be getting training wheels and then siphoning off of that and then learning more until eventually I can ride the bike on my own. The concept of planning incorporates both the plan and the goal because you need both in order to make a clear track to achieve. So moving to the next slide, what are the levels of goals and plans? I actually inserted a graphic from the book to kind of help you guys understand this. So basically, it's a pyramid. So from top to bottom, what that would look like and their importance. So the top of the pyramid being that mission statement or that overall goal. So it's the purpose or the reason for that company's existence. Right below that is strategic plans and goals, which would be like upper management. They kind of affect the organization as a whole. So they're still tied to the mission statement, but now it's kind of like goals that are helping you get to that mission statement. Now, right under that is tactical. Tactical goals and plans are middle management, so like major divisions, kind of getting more specified in each area of what needs to be done to get to strategic goals, to get to the mission statement. And then the bottom is operational goals or plans. So that's like frontline managers and employees. So what they need to be doing in their divisions to affect the strategic goals, which will then affect the mission statement. All right, so we're going to go to the next slide with that. So there's a couple of different things, different kinds of goals. So the first is strategic goals. Strategic goals are broad statements describing where the organization wants to be. These goals pertain to the whole company rather than to specific departments. Strategic plans define the action steps by which the company intends to attain the strategic goals. Strategic goal planning tends to be long-term and may define organizational steps from 2 to 5 years in the future. So these are somewhat long-term. Strategic plans define resource allocations such as cash, personnel, space, and facilities that are required to meet those goals. Next slide, we're going to flip into the tactical goals. So tactical goals are the results that major divisions and departments within the company would like to achieve. So these are geared more towards divisions and towards specific departments. Tactical goals apply to middle management and describe what major subunits must do for the organization to hit that goal. Tactical plans are designed to help execute the major strategic plans and then eventually to part of the company's strategy. So kind of that triangle hierarchy we were talking about a little bit earlier. Next, we're going to go into operational goals. So operational goals are precise and measurable results that are expected from departments, work groups, and individuals. So now it's getting even more in depth. It wants individual achievement as well to get there. Operational plans are developed at lower levels of the organization to specify action steps towards achieving operational goals. So they support tactical plans by basically giving more back support, explaining where each person needs to be in order for that group to achieve together. The operational plan is the monthly and weekly operations tool utilized by managers. So basically they look at it every month and week and realize where they are and where they need to be, what critiques need to be given, and then they work with their staff to get there. I just put one more on the next slide. I put another graph. The graph, again, is from the book. It's a good visual, though. It's basically organizational planning and the different steps to organizational planning. So as you can see, the step one is to develop the plan. So that's to define the vision or the mission statement and set goals. It then loops around to step two, and step two is to translate that plan. So what they mean by that is to define tactical plans and objectives, define contingency plans and scenarios, develop kind of like a strategy map to understand where, to visualize where you would like to be, and then to identify intelligence teams, which I will go into intelligence teams with you, as well as contingency plans and scenarios. The step three would have been defining operational goals and plans, selecting measures and targets, setting stretch goals, which stretch goals are very important, and we'll also talk about those, and crisis planning, because we always need to be prepared. And then it loops to 4, which is to execute the plan. So management by objectives, which we will go over, performance dashboards, single-use plans, decentralized responsibilities, and then 5, which is to monitor and learn from this process, which is holding reviews and holding operational reviews. Okay. So the next slide is aligning goals and using a strategy map. A popular technique for aligning goals into a hierarchy is a strategy map. So it kind of allows you to see where you need to go throughout your process to reach your goals most efficiently. A strategy map is a visual representation of the key drivers of an organization's success. So you're taking the main portions and you're kind of drawing it out. Almost like when you were in elementary or middle school and they made you draw like one of those word webs before you wrote an essay, so you understood where you needed to be for the essay to be effective. Strategy maps are very useful in displaying cause and effect relationships among goals and plans. Strategy maps are crucial to the success of a business as they assist in achieving desired performance. The next slide is the characteristics of an effective goal. So effective goals have 5 essential traits. They cover key result areas. They're challenging but realistic. They're linked to rewards because the staff has to be rewarded for hitting those goals. They have to be engaged. They are specific and measurable, and they have a defined time period as to when they need to be completed. Key performance indicators assess what is important to the organization and how well the organization is progressing towards attaining the strategic goal. And when goals are unrealistic, employee morale is majorly decreased, as no rewards will be extended in the event that the company will fail at that goal. So in order to engage your staff, you need to have realistic goals and effective goals that both help the organization and help the staff, because you doing well allows them to reap benefits of pay raises and stuff of that nature. So moving to the next slide, it's management by objectives. Management by objectives is a system where managers and employees define goals for every department, project, and basically use them to monitor subsequent performance. So we do that a lot at the hospital. I know with financial, definitely, we always kind of like are gauging where we're at and where we need to be. 4 activities make management by objectives successful. That's setting goals, that's developing action plans, that's reviewing process periodically to make sure that we're learning from those mistakes, and that we're appraising overall performance. Goals at lower levels are aligned with and enable the attainment of goals at top management. So basically, the bottom needs to be effective in doing well for the top to achieve that goal or that mission statement. Management by objectives must be carefully watched. Overemphasis on goals could lead to staff cutting corners to achieve goals and benchmarks. So a good example of this is if you knew that there was a pay raise associated with your company reaching goal, there could be various ways that you could kind of underhand or build that goal without it being technically accurate. So that's again why it's important to have an effective goal, because it gives your staff a chance to achieve the goal without having to cheat the system. Management by means is the next slide. Management by means focuses attention on the methods and processes used to achieve goals. Management by means focuses on people, considering the means rather than just reaching the goals. So this helps more because it's focusing on the actual concepts to reach the goals rather than just the goals in itself. It's also based on the idea that when managers pursue their activities in the right way, the right outcomes will result from that action. The next slide is single-use and standing plans. Single-use plans are developed to achieve a set of goals that are not likely to be repeated in the future. So maybe you have an unorthodox situation that you need to address, and maybe you create a one-time plan in order to deal with that situation. Standing plans are ongoing plans that provide guidance for tasks that recur repeatedly within the organization. So standing plans, I put a couple of examples. So that would be like employee illness, absences, smoking, discipline, or dismissal. So those are things that happen regularly that we need those plans for. Going to the next slide would be benefits and limitations of planning. I just put a couple of positives and negatives to kind of help you visualize. Goals and plans provide a source of commitment and motivation. Goals and plans guide resource allocations. They're also a guide to action. They set a standard of performance. And the negatives are that it could create an environment of underhanded behavior if they're placed improperly. And that goals and plans can get in the way of intuition and creativity of the staff. If you're very set on one thing, you may not see something that you would normally see. So that's just something we need to be mindful of. Contingency planning is the next slide, which is we talked about a little bit earlier in the concept web. Contingency plans define company responses to be taken in the case of emergencies, setbacks, or unexpected conditions. So they consider possible downturns, declining markets, increases of cost of supplies, new tech developments, or even safety accidents. So they're very practical in nature. Managers can then forecast a range of alternative responses to the most likely high-impact contingencies, focusing on the worst case so that we're prepared and ready to take on the best case. Scenario building is the next slide. Scenario building involves looking at current trends and discontinuities and visualizing future possibilities. So building scenarios is important because what management may not conceive to be an issue right now is normally the problem that does the most damage. So being able to kind of visualize and just kind of put into perspective what may happen will help us prepare for those things. A recent survey by Chartered Management Institute and Business Continuity Institute found that some of the top events that managers should prepare for include extreme weather, loss of IT, loss of key employees, loss of access to plants or to facilities, failure of communications, and even supply chain disruptions. So in the event that maybe something doesn't show up that was critical for operation, how will you adapt to that situation? The next slide, in addition to that, is crisis planning and prevention. Crisis planning is a little bit different, but it enables companies to cope with unexpected events that are so sudden and devastating that they could destroy the company. So the basically crisis prevention steps detect like warning signs of potential cases. So basically this would include things that are immediate as opposed to things that are non-so immediate. So with the contingency planning or with the scenario building, we're kind of like drawing out these scenarios. But with crisis planning and prevention, crisis planning is when this is actually happening. So this is when it matters a little bit more because it's immediate. So we need direct responses. As far as prevention goes, building relationships is key. So building relationships with your employees, your customers, with unions and the community, because they will help you get through those struggles. Decentralized planning is the next slide. And that is when planning experts work with managers in major departments to develop their own goals and plans. So it's kind of an aid to setting district-wide plans. In this process, managers come up with their own solutions as well to problems and become more committed to following through on the plans. So it allows them to get engaged with the action plan. And therefore, they'll understand what they're trying to get done, and so will the company, and so we can move together as a team. As the environment becomes more volatile, top executives see the benefits of pushing decentralized planning even further by having planning experts work with line managers and frontline employees to develop plans that meet the fast-changing environment. So what I meant by that was basically when things are getting a little bit more rough, we can send those planning managers to the front line so that they can get directly involved. and as it gets more volatile, that may be needed to get things back onto track. Stretch goals were talked about earlier, and they are the next slide. Stretch goals are reasonably yet highly ambitious goals that are clear, compelling, and imaginative. They fire up employees and inspire excellence. Stretch goals are typically far beyond current levels, and they kind of force staff to innovate to find ways to meet those goals. Managers can use these goals to compel employees to think in new ways that can lead to new practices and breakthroughs. Performance dashboards is the next slide. And performance dashboards help executives keep track of key performance metrics such as sales in relation to targets, numbers of products on backorder, percentage of customer service calls received within specific time periods, and so on. Some dashboard softwares even incorporate software that allows the users to perform what-if scenarios to evaluate the impact of various alternatives for meeting goals. And lastly, I wanted to talk about deploying intelligence teams. An intelligence team is a cross-functional group of managers and employees. They're usually led by competitive intelligence personnel. They work together to gain a better understanding of specific business issues. So if we can identify an issue, we can send an intelligence team, which is a group of managers and employees, to investigate that issue. And that provides insights, possibilities, and recommendations about goals and plans relative to that issue. Intelligence teams provide more insight and enable managers to make more informed decisions about goals. So basically, we're looking to kind of develop more insight before making decisions. As far as the discussion question, guys, I want you to go ahead and identify what are the 4 steps of management by objective system, and why is that system crucial to progressive companies. So go ahead and answer that for me. The last slide is just a reference slide, but I do appreciate you guys taking your time to watch the video. PowerPoint will be connected below, so please feel free to watch the PowerPoint if at any point you did not maybe get one of the things that I was speaking on. And if there's any questions, please email me. Have a great day, guys, and have a wonderful weekend.